Hi, my name is Mohammed Sanusi, and I'm here to present about on the topic environmental and social impact assessments. So, uh, what is environmental and social impact assessment? Or when we are talking about environmental and social impact assessment, it is a process that is used to assess the potential environmental and social impact of a proposed project and to determine whether the project is acceptable from an environmental and social perspective. So when we are the ESIA is actually a process that is used to identify, predict, and evaluate a proposed project or development uh, uh, potential environmental and social impact. It is typically required for projects that are likely to have significant impact on environment and society, and is a way to ensure that projects are developed and implemented in a way that is environmentally and socially responsible. Now, what are the goals and objective of ESIA? The primary objective of the assessment is to identify, predict, and evaluate the proposed projects or developments potential environmental impact. Well, the goal is to identify any negative impacts that may arise from a project and to identify measures to mitigate or prevent them. Some other specific objectives are to identify and assess the impact, to also help assess the potential impact of a project on human health. Of course, this could include the potential risk to human health from exposure to pollutants or other environmental hazards. Another one could be to identify and assess the potential impact of the projects on social and economic conditions, that's of the on the local community of the or the host community, including impacts on employment, housing, infrastructure, and other social related factors. Another one could also be to evaluate the potential impact of the project on cultural resources, including the historical sites, the cultural landscape, and other cultural resources. Well, another one could be to measure and mitigate or prevent negative impact and to enhance positive impact of the project in the long run. Now, why is this assessment even very, very important? If for a start, the first one is to protect the environment. Well, when we are talking about this assessment helping to protect the environment, we use it as a tool to help to identify and evaluate the potential environmental impact of a proposed project or development. By identifying any negative impact that may arise, it is possible to identify measures to mitigate or prevent them. This helps to protect the natural environment and ensure that the projects are developed in a sustainable manner. Another one is to protect human health. When we are talking about protecting human health, the assessments help to identify potential impact of the project on human health. This could include assessing the risk to human health from exposure to pollutants or environmental hazard, as well as evaluating the potential social and economic impact of the project to the local community. The next is to ensure compliance with the law. When we are talking about laws and regulations, many countries have these laws in place that requires environmental and social impact assessment for certain types of projects. The assessment helps to ensure the projects are developed and implemented in compliance with these laws and regulations, and they should meet the established standards. Another reason could be to improve project planning and the design. Now, this assessment can also help to improve the planning and the design of project by identifying potential impacts and identifying measures to mitigate uh, the the impacts or prevent them. This can also help to avoid delay and cost overrun, and can lead to more successful and sustainable projects. Finally, it also helps us to promote transparency and stakeholder engagement. This On this end, we know the assessment is a process that involves consultation with a wide range of stakeholders, which could include the local community, the government agencies, NGOs, and other interested parties. This promote transparency and help to build trust and cooperation between the project proponents and the other key stakeholders. Now, when we are talking about the assessment in Nigeria, these are typically classified into three categories. We have the category A, B, C, or the category one, two, three, as the case may be. When we are talking about the category A, it includes projects that are likely to have significant environmental and social impact, and they require a comprehensive assessment. Example of such projects could be an oil and gas exploration and production, or large-scale infrastructure projects such as highway, railway, airports, or and the projects that are likely to have sensitive effects to our ecosystem or our communities. Secondly, the category B or the category two. These categories include projects that are likely to have moderate to high environmental and social impact, and they require simplified assessment. Example of such in Nigeria could include a small-scale infrastructure project such as a bridge, or a culvert, or agricultural projects, and projects that are likely to affect small or isolated communities. On the third category, which is the category C, they include projects that are unlikely to have significant environmental impact and do not require the assessment usually. Example of such projects in Nigeria could include a small-scale agricultural project, a small commercial or residential development, and projects that are unlikely to affect sensitive ecosystem or communities. In overall, the classification of the projects into one of these categories are based on the potential impact of the project on the environment and society, as well as the complexity of the scale of the project. Now, let's talk about the stages of the assessment process. Generally, there are about 9 of them, and they include the screening process or the screening stage, the scoping, the baseline, the baseline assessment. We have the impact prediction, impact evaluation, all up to the monitoring and evaluation stage of the process. Now, let's go deep into taking each and every one of them to know what they really mean. The first is the screening process or the screening stage of the process. The screening stage is definitely the first stage of the environmental and social impact assessment process, and it involves determining whether the assessment is required for the proposed project in the first place. During the screening stage, the potential impact of the project on the environment and society are assessed based on the scale, the complexity, and potential risk of the project. If the potential impacts are determined to be minor or insignificant, definitely the project may not require an assessment. However, if the potential impacts are significant or potentially risky, the assessment may be required. The screening stage is important because it helps to ensure the assessment is only used for projects that are likely to have significant environmental and social impact, and that it is not unnecessarily applied to projects that are unlikely to have such impact. After the screening stage is the scoping stage, which is the next stage. This stage of the assessment is is a process of defining the scope, that is the extent of the assessment, including the boundaries of the study area, the key stakeholders, the decision makers, and even the objective and purpose of the assessment. This is the stage where everything is being covered. During this stage, the assessment team typically meets with the project proponent and other key stakeholders to identify the key issues and concerns that need to be addressed in the assessment. This may include environmental impact, such as the air quality, water quality, biodiversity, social impact, or it could even be displacement of the communities, changes in land use, and impact on cultural heritage. The scoping stage is very important part of the process because it helps to ensure that the assessment is focused on the issues key issues and also concerns that are relevant to the project and that is conducted in a transparent and participatory manner. The scoping stage is also important because it helps to identify any gaps in the knowledge or data that needs to be addressed in the assessment. Next is the baseline assessment stage. The baseline assessment stage involve collecting data on the current environmental and social conditions in the area. And in order to establish, it helps us to actually establish a baseline against the which the it does it helps us to establish a baseline against which the impact of the proposed project can be measured. During the baseline assessment, the team typically collects data on a wide range of environmental and social indicators, including air quality, water quality, biodiversity, land use, even land cover, soil quality, and the population of the environment, the communities, the demography, even the cultural resources. The data may be collected through a variety of methods, including field surveys, interviews, focus groups, and even desk-based research. This stage is very, very important part of the assessment because it provides a comprehensive and accurate picture of the current environmental and social condition of the study area. This information is used to predict the potential impact of the proposed project and to identify any potential risk or vulnerability that needs to be addressed. Next is the impact prediction stage. On the impact prediction stage, it involves predicting the potential impact of the proposed project on the environment and the society based on the data and information collected during the baseline assessment stage and other relevant sources. During this stage, the assessment team typically uses a variety of tools and techniques to predict the potential impact of the project. These tools may include the modeling, environmental modeling, the spatial analysis, risk assessment, and other methods. The impact prediction stage may also involve consultation with experts and stakeholders to gather additional information and perspective on potential impact of the project. This stage is important because it helps identify the potential risk and opportunities associated with the project and to identify the potential vulnerability or sensitive areas that may be affected by the project. It is also important step in the planning and design of the project as it helps identify the potential issues that need to be addressed in order to minimize negative impact and maximize the positive impact. The next stage is impact evaluation. So when we are talking about impact evaluation stage, it involves the potential impact of the proposed project on the environment and the society based on the data and information collected during the prediction stage. Uh, this stage is very important because it helps to determine whether the project is acceptable for an environmental from the environmental or social perspective, and to identify any potential risk or vulnerability that needs to be addressed. It is also important because it helps us to get a deeper understanding of what of the potential issues that need to be addressed. Next is the mitigation and enhancement stage. Well, this is another very important stage because it helps us to identify measures to mitigate or prevent or prevent. Uh, of course, it helps us to look for the measures to enhance the positive impact based on the data and the information collected during the evaluation stage, and other relevant sources, of course. During this stage, the team typically identifies a range of measures that can be implemented to mitigate or prevent negative impact, or to obviously enhance the positive impact. These may include technical measures such as the use of best technology, or pollution prevention measures, or social measures such as the provision of compensation or relocation assistance to affected communities, for example. This stage is very important because it helps to ensure that the project is developed and implemented in a way that the environment and the society are very sustainable. It helps to identify any potential trade-offs or conflicts that may arise between different stakeholders and to develop strategies to address these issues. After the mitigation stage is the report stage. At the report stage is where the report document is produced. The report is a document that summarize the result of the assessment process, including the baseline assessment, the impact prediction, impact evaluation, and the mitigation and enhancement measures. The report is typically prepared by a team of experts, including the environmental scientists, social scientists, and other specialists who have expertise in the specific impact of the project. The report is typically reviewed and approved by a regulatory agency or other relevant authority before the project can proceed. To provide information about the potential impact and project, the assessment report provides detailed information about the potential impact of the project on the environment and society, including the likely magnitude and duration of the impact and the measures that have been proposed to mitigate the or prevent the negative impact. Well, it also helps to inform decision making uh, process. Of course, the reports provide important information that is used to inform decision making about the projects, including whether the project is acceptable from the environmental and social perspective. It also helps to provide transparency and accountability, and also help to guide the implementation process. After this is the review and the approval stage. The review and approval stage is actually carried out by after the evaluation of the report by the regulatory agency or the relevant authority. Of course, they are the one to determine whether the project is acceptable or it's not from the environmental and the social perspective. In Nigeria, the Federal Ministry of Environmental has this call. During the review and approval stage, the assessment report is typically reviewed by a team of experts who are familiar with the specific impact of the project. as well as the environmental and societal standard and guidelines that apply to the project. The expert may also consult with other stakeholders, such as the local community and NGOs, to gather additional information and perspective on the project. Based on the review, the regulatory agency will make a decision about whether to approve the project or modify the project or reject the project. In some cases, the agency may also propose conditions on the project, such as uh, requiring the implementation of certain mitigation measures or monitoring plans. Now, after the approval, we have the monitoring and evaluation stage. This stage of the assessment is actually an ongoing process of collecting and analyzing data to assess the actual impact of the project on the environment and society. Monitoring can occur at various stages of the project lifecycle. This includes the construction, the operation, and even the commissioning phase. It is typically carried out by a team of experts who are trained in monitoring techniques and are familiar with the specific impact of the project. There are several reasons why monitoring is very important in such assessment or such activity. Well, some of it are to ensure that the project is being implemented as planned, or it's also to identify and address any unanticipated impact, or it can be to inform decision making, or to also provide transparency and accountability. Overall, right, monitoring is an important part of the assessment that helps to ensure that projects are developed and implemented in a way that is environmentally and socially responsible and sustainable. Now, there are many participants in the environmental the assessment process, and this includes the proponent, the assessor, the decision maker, and even the reviewer. Of course, for the project proponent, these are we call them the individuals or company that is proposing the project. The proponent is responsible for initiating the assessment process and for providing the necessary information and data for assessment. The regulatory agency, on the other hand, they are the authority responsible for reviewing and for reviewing and making decision about whether the project is acceptable from an environmental and social perspective. In Nigeria, the Federal Ministry of Environment is the primary regulatory agency responsible for ESIA. Of course, we have the assessor, which is the ESIA team. This team typically comprised of a group of experts who are responsible for conducting assessments, including collecting data, predicting impact, evaluating impact, and proposing mitigation and enhancement measures. This team may include environmental scientists, social scientists, and other specialists who have expertise in the specific impact of the project. The next one is we have the reviewers, which are the people who help or bridge the gap between the assessor and the decision maker. They help look into it and to help the decision makers job easier for them. We could have other stakeholders who are like a group or organization that are directly or indirectly affected by the project, or who have an interest in the project. The stakeholders may include the local community, non-governmental organizations, even government agencies, and other groups. that they may be involved in the process through consultation, participation in public meetings, and other means. Well, in summary, the environmental and social impact assessment is a process that is used as is a process that is used to assess the potential environmental and social impact of a proposed project and to determine whether the project is acceptable from an environmental and social perspective. The assessment is typically required for projects that are likely to have significant impact on the environment and society, and is a way to ensure that the projects are developed and implemented in a way that is environmentally and socially responsible and very, very sustainable. Thank you very much.